Now, imagine for a second a world without TikTok, without Zoom, without Amazon deliveries, and without real-time news. Now add a global pandemic to the picture. Today, we dive into an alternative reality where COVID-19 happened not in 2020, but in 1995, without the internet, without social media, and without advanced globalization. What would our world look like, and would we be able to cope? Stay until the end. You will find an unexpected ending and one historical fact that could have really changed everything. In 1995, television and newspapers were the main sources of information. People used landlines, and cell phones were a luxury. The internet was almost non-existent. Email was only available at universities. Globalization was just gaining momentum. Flights were expensive and logistics were slow. Without Twitter and CNN breaking news, the pandemic would have spread in silence, weeks or even months without global awareness of the threat. How would you have heard about a pandemic in the 90s? On the radio? In the newspaper? From friends? Healthcare systems in most countries were unprepared. International cooperation was low. No global WHO in its current form. No global protocols. The lack of online coordination would have slowed down the exchange of data on the virus. Instead of Zoom, urgent meetings by fax. No Netflix, YouTube, Telegram, Discord. People would be watching VHS tapes, listening to CDs, reading books and playing Minesweeper, videotapes with assignments or lessons on TV, psychological pressure without social networks, less information but also less panic. The isolation of the 90s is not marathons in Zoom, it is real loneliness. Now imagine millions of school children without TikTok. Worse than a virus? Small businesses couldn't go online, there was no e-commerce. Logistics would fall apart, no tracking, no remote control. Central banks would not be able to respond quickly, no digital payments, no remote work. Vaccine development. Without global coordination, without open scientific databases. If you lived in 1995, what would you do? During lockdown? Listen to music, draw, or write a diary. So, if COVID-19 had started in the 90s, it would have been a completely different world. Slow reaction, chaos in communication, truly offline isolation. But perhaps humanity would have become more resilient. Or maybe, on the contrary, the pandemic would have ended much more tragically. Subscribe to the channel if you want even more alternative history scenarios. Like if you don't want to go back to the 90s, especially during a pandemic. And write in the comments, would you have coped in 1995 without the internet? In the next issue, what if the USSR had not collapsed? Subscribe, it will be hot.